Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Arbacheski with the Chester County Community Foundation. It's good to see you all, actually at noon. So good afternoon officially, and happy Monday, rainy, but progressing into spring here. So appreciate you jumping on and taking some time with us today. This presentation is going to really focus on a few things, fundraising. And if you notice the first three letters in fundraising, it's fun. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of some tips and tricks in terms of how to be a board member, how to ask for some dollars for your organization. If you don't know some of these tips already. Just some housekeeping. Since we have such a really cool group and not too big, I'd love for you to just go around the box, around the Hollywood squares here, and just say your name and the organization you're with. Just shout it out if you don't mind. I'll pick, let's see, I'll go. As I said, I'm Jason with the Chester County Community Foundation, and I'll pick Connie Carter.
Thanks, Jason. My name's Connie Carter, and I'm a consultant and do a lot of fundraising consulting with nonprofits in Chester County, and I'm eager to learn from Jason. And so I've been doing this work for a long time, and there's always stuff to learn. So it's always great to learn from somebody else who does this work. And
Great.
I'll hand it over to Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Roberts. I'm with the Oxford Educational Foundation, and I'll send it to Beth Lockhart.
Hi, I'm Beth Lockhart. I'm the executive director for DEFCAN. And I'm very excited to be here and to learn about big gifts because we hope to get more of them.
Betty Selfa, and I'm with A Heaven. Looking forward to learn from you, Jason.
Thanks, Patty.
And I'm Christine McDonald from the Friends Home in Kennett. I'm glad I was able to attend. Thank you.
I'm Ellen Gilbert from Barclay Friends Board.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dave Vermeil. I'm with Born Leaf Special Camp and also a board member of the Community Foundation.
I'm Donna Hostler. I'm with Office of Bookkeeping. I do bookkeeping for many nonprofits and volunteer as well because that's how it works. So the Union Fire Company, Neighborhood Service Center, Oxford Main Street, and others. I'll give it to Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie Stevens. I'm the grants director here at the Chester County Community Foundation. And I will give it to Maria.
Hi, little technical difficulty here on Church Street. I'm Maria Tucker, development director for the Senior Center.
I think I see Michael Carwick. Hi, Michael.
Hello, everybody. Michael Carwick. I'm volunteer with the Community Foundation, and I'm on the investment committee for that. I'm the incoming president of the Chester County Estate Planning Council and maybe some other community involvement. So here to learn today a little bit.
Great. And
I'm not sure who to pass it to. Sorry, I dialed in a little late, so I'm not sure who hasn't gone yet.
I think we have the gist of it. I think Theodora.
Hi. My name is Teddy Cetos, but Theodora's real, the real name. But I am a volunteer at the Players Club in Swarthmore. It's in Delaware County, but we came to your workshop that you had in October. Some of us on the board, and I've been receiving the information, and we're embarking on a capital campaign, and I have volunteered to help restore our building, which is over 100 years old, and continue our programs for everyone. So that's why I'm here. Thank you very much for extending the invitation.
I'm Laura Schofield Pearson, and I'm with the Westchester YMCA.
I also see Christine McDonald.
Yes, I'm from the Friends Home in Kennett.
Thank you. Welcome. Brian Doyle?
Hi, I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid of Southeastern Pennsylvania, and I'm on the board of the Crime Victim Center of Chester County.
Great, welcome. I think I see Chris from CVC. She's just joining us. So as folks come in here, I think folks are starting to come in. I'm going to start, but just some housekeeping things. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me during the presentation. I'm okay with that. Since we have an ASL interpreter, please state your first name and the organization you're with before your question. That would help the interpreter, Deb, today. Or put your questions in the chat. Stephanie will be managing those, or questions after my presentation. But I'm really eager to get started, and I hope I'm glad you're spending a little time with me today on your lunch hour to kind of learn more. So that's me up there. I'm Jason Arbacheski. I'm the Director of Gift Planning and Stewardship at the Chester County Community Foundation. I have joined the foundation now, I think about 4.5 years, and have been in fundraising, sort of landed into it in 2007. I was really a public affairs kind of guy, and just happened to be in a great organization that taught me the ropes about, really a number of things, including fundraising. And I landed there and stayed there, and just love the fundraising space as it relates to helping people plan with their giving, hence my title, Gift Planning. I'm happy to be with you today, and I want to share with you my experiences and even the stuff that's on these slides. And some of you may have seen these slides before, but it's a good refresher and a good way to kind of blend things that you've heard before into your own experiences, whether you volunteer as a board member or you work to fundraise for your organizations. So I appreciate you giving us your introductions. Here's the agenda for today: keys to major and planned gifts. First and foremost, I'm going to give you some keys to success on how to do this. Board roles. What is my role as a board member? I get that question a lot. So I'm going to provide you some tips and tricks in terms of what is your role as a board member for the organization that you're serving. The conversations, how to have a conversation about giving. What's the psychology of it? Who gives and why? What are the 7 faces of philanthropy, the 7 faces profiles? Overall, this one thing that you should take away from this session is that fundraising is relational. It is not transactional. It is not to say that I'm going to get that gift and I count it towards my goal. It's having a relationship really first and foremost with your donor and making sure it's a long-standing, engaging relationship. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I'll give you some tips about soliciting and asking. Some tell me that I'm a little nervous about asking for gifts. How do I even talk about it to my donor or my prospect? I'll give you some tips to help you there. And really overall keys to success. We want you to be successful. So this is why we have this session for you. So here we go. I want to talk to you about the state of American giving. All right. So this is through Giving USA. If you don't know Giving USA, it's a national report about the state of philanthropy in America. It's released every June on the previous year. All right. So if you don't know it, make sure you mark your calendar for early June when this report will come out again. So what you're seeing here on this slide is basically the state of American giving in 2023. Not too shabby, right? $557 billion was donated by our fellow citizens and Americans in this country. Really great, not too bad. I don't want to be Danny Downer here, but I have to say in 2023, what was really kind of predominant that we were facing was inflation. So overall, we say that giving was $557 billion, but it actually dropped about 2.1% because of inflation. If you recall, inflation in 2022 was about 8%, just overall. And then in 2023, it ebbed a little bit, and it was still up there about 4.1%. So that was big enough, that 4.1, to really take a chunk out of giving. But Americans were still very charitable. I don't mean to be a downer. But, I think overall, we need to sort of focus on this number here. So this number in 2013 was about 73%. And you may wonder, well, why that is? Why is that? Why has it dropped over these last 12 years? Well, major donors are constantly being asked for major gifts. And in the fundraising development space, you don't have you sort of have a pipeline, right? For lack of a better phrase, of engaging new donors into your mission. So that pipeline of donors from $100 to $500 has not been really effectively engaged or cultivated so these folks can make larger gifts. So you're looking at donor fatigue here, comparing that 73% to 67%. I also found that there was some staff attrition over these last several years. It's sort of chronic, which really kind of brings down giving in a way for development shops when one development person leaves after a few years or there's change at the leadership level. So this is something to bear to watch. As the June numbers come out on the report of giving in 2024, we'll see if that number has held steady or if it's gone down. But from all indicators, 2024 was a good year. Inflation came down. People felt like they had more in their wallets to give to charity. So I'm really excited and to share this with you, and really excited myself to see the State of American giving in June when we see those numbers. You'll see here, where did the charitable dollars go? Obviously, it's really the first is religious organizations. That's always the first when this report comes out. I do have to say that religious giving, you have to watch. Affluent household giving for religious organizations gone down over the last 5 years. But for the sake of this report, it's up. You'll see here human services and education and foundations are the ones that are the primary beneficiaries of giving. So overall, not too bad, but considering where we were, all of us in 2023 with inflation, that makes total sense. So we're excited for the June numbers. So opening the door for a donor or someone to be involved with your organization, supporting it, there are really 5 levels. If you put it all together on a slide and say, how does this all work in terms of engagement? Really starting with level 1. How is the person or family getting involved with your organization? How did you know about your organization and your mission? It starts right here. Social media, your presence in your communications, your events that you have, bordering into level 2. So perhaps somebody who gets to follow you on LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you, and then decides to, they're starting to receive your communications, your printed newsletters, magazines, or your e-newsletters. And you know what? They decide to attend an event that you have or make a donation to your mission. And at that point, once they make the donation, you have about a good year to engage with them. Okay, so say they make their gift March 25th. So you have a full year almost to engage with them and reach them. Perhaps it's a call to them to say thank you. That's where stewardship begins. So it's really about getting them involved with your mission and understanding why they support it. And level 3 might take a few years, but once you get to a point where it's somebody who's really loves your organization, you have the opportunity in a relational way to ask them for a major gift. All right. So a major gift solicitation, and I'll get to this later, is talking to somebody in person about the needs of your organization. So at that point, they give you a major gift, a gift of 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever that threshold is. And then that could continue for several years. And then level 5 is where you really want to get that person to go. You want to get them to be a donor who says, I love you so much. I want to express my love to you forever. And that's a gift, a planned gift, a bequest in a will, a beneficiary designation, IRA designation. This is where really the engagement is full center, and it's part of someone who they are. It's part of their legacy and their meaning and their connection to your organization. So think of the opening the door and donor engagement in these 5 levels. The keys to major and planned gifts, to raise higher levels of resources, nonprofits must focus on major and planned gifts. If you're not focused on a major gift program or asking for donors for a larger gift, you're going to be stuck. So I highly suggest you think in terms of creating a program to increase donor support. This will also require low-key and long-term care and tending to your donors. It will require face-to-face cultivation and solicitation. Board members and volunteers are key intermediaries to reach and engage donors. Major gifts are raised by peer-level solicitors in some organizations. So you'll have a board member go with a fundraising development person to meet the donor or prospect and have a authentic relational conversation and asking the person for a larger gift. The authenticity of the relationship is crucial. Major and planned givers are relational, not transactional. It's exactly what I sort of want to hone in on every time we go through these slides, that it's really relational. It's about the relationship with the person who you're talking to. So why do some nonprofits never get around to planned giving? I deal with it all the time. In fact, when I was in fundraising, frontline fundraising, I also was with an organization that said, look, planned giving can take a back seat. We need cash in the door. We need revenue. You need to engage donors. But it really takes only 10 minutes a day to do something planned giving-ish, all right? I tell nonprofits that who have a small staff, if it's just you and you're wearing many hats, take 10 minutes every day or every 2 days to bolster your planned giving program, your planned giving effort. So why don't nonprofits ever get around to planned giving? It's really the mystique, as I call it, the fear of what planned giving is. It's lots of words, it's alphabet soup, it's lingo, it's bequests, it's will, it's death. People sort of say, no, that can be on the back burner and longer term planning, but it doesn't have to be. In fact, we're in a situation now in our country where wealth is transferring from one generation, in fact, 2 generations, to multiple younger generations. So if you're not having conversations about planned gifts and major gifts now, you're going to get lost over these next 10 years to 20 years.
Jason, there's
yeah.
a question in the comments asking about what did you mean by low key?
In what aspect?
I think it was in the last slide. You mentioned low key.
Require low-key, long-term care and tending. So low-key meaning as you're cultivating a donor or a prospect, it's really low-key. It's having a sort of sit-down, nothing informal or nothing formal, but very informal approach when having a meeting or conversation with someone. Low-key, keep it low-key. You don't want them to be scared off. Who asked that question?
That was Chris from CVC.
Great. Thank you, Chris. So planned giving can be complex. It requires professional advisors. Gift planning is incredibly personal. Planned gifts tend to come to fruition after people die. Planned gifts have a long lead time, 3 to 20 years on average. It's sort of a deferred gift. It's not an outright gift. So this is kind of like the semblance of why nonprofits don't want to focus on it. But again, I encourage you to do so in some fashion, and we at the Community Foundation can help you. So it's really about relationship, your mission, and impact. Keep these in mind, is that as I frame this for you, people give to people give to causes they believe in, and most major and planned givers tend to look closely at organizational leadership and your outcomes. So be sure, I mentioned this to a nonprofit the other day, look at your GuideStar rating and your charity navigator ratings. And you know what? If you're not using those tools, do so, because people do pay attention to it. If your ratings are out there and you're at a silver, platinum level, which is a second to first, or a gold, promote that. Put it on your website, on your homepage. Put it in your acknowledgement letters that you send to donors of $250 or more in the footer of your letter. Find clever ways to promote that, because I personally had a situation where a professional advisor working with their terminally ill client chose the organization that I worked for. So after this person passed, $108,000 came as part of a living trust. And the attorney told me that they looked at the organization's charity navigator rating, and that's what prompted this person to choose that organization. She had no affiliation to Chester County or Pennsylvania. She lived in Michigan, but she loved the organization and our metrics that we were reporting. So please do pay attention to them, because people do shop around. All right. So in this area of the presentation, I kind of like to, I just want to be mindful of time. I want to be sure that for the board members on this call, if it's fuzzy for you in terms of what's my role as a board member, oh man, I'm lost in the sauce. I don't know. I haven't sat with the executive director. Here are some things to take away that you can use as part of your role. All right. It's really first, and you probably have heard this already from the organizations that you represent, be a donor to the nonprofit that you represent. You're an ambassador. You want to support the organization. Most nonprofits don't stipulate a giving level or amount that the board member should give, but give with your heart and give what you can to show that there's board participation, because ultimately you want the board to give 100% participation to the nonprofit, and you want to be able to convey that to donors. Perhaps you yourself are meeting with donors or prospects with your development person. So why not say, I'm a board member to XYZ. I support it personally as well. So make the gift to your nonprofit. I recommend that highly. That's step one. Number two is, this, be an ambassador. Be out in the community, naturally talking to folks out there, whether it's at the grocery store, at home with your family, with close friends, with strangers. Maybe it's at chamber events or civic association events. And you know what? Being an ambassador, here's a cool, nifty idea. Take this, have your nonprofit make this tent card. We at the Community Foundation, our board members have this tent card, and I've seen it done elsewhere, where it's a cheat sheet, where you're out there talking it up, but perhaps you want to slip somebody this little tent card with key messaging about the nonprofit. It works. It's a sort of something that's been around for, I don't know, amount of time I've been in fundraising, which is almost 20 years, but this works. Talk it over with people that you know about the nonprofit. Why are you part of it? Your personal feelings about the nonprofit. Number three, be a sleuth. Google is your friend. And what I mean by that is, a lot of nonprofits say to me, Jason, our donors are renewing their gifts, but it is so dang hard to find new donors. I hear you. If you don't have the budget and a sophisticated sort of engagement where you're trying to acquire, or what they call acquisition, acquire new donors, it can be tough. I've worked on both sides of the fence, where I was with an organization that had a very sophisticated acquisition program, and I was working on the other side where we just didn't have the budget for it. We had to be kind of creative. So one way you can do that is kind of showing that you're sort of researching. So, going out into the community and finding some of the folks who may be interested in supporting your organization that you represent, develop partnerships, test if the person's interested in philanthropy. There are times where you're going to probably meet someone who's not philanthropic or gives to charity, but perhaps they were never asked. First and foremost, if they're not asked, you'll never know. Maybe perhaps putting them on your nonprofit's mailing list so that you could just slip them something in the mail or e-news letter, or ask them to come out for a tour. tour the organization, just very informal, low key, to see your organization. You probably have done that already, but these are small, subtle ways that you could kind of be a sleuth. And then just pay attention to their reactions as they're coming in. That's really important to see their reactions about giving, your nonprofit's mission, the engagement. What's their body language like? What are they asking? Are they quiet? Looking for leads is important. So whether it's Facebook stalking or you have your actual paper copy of your news article in your whatever paper that you're looking at, look for the social section and look at the folks who have photos being taken at an event, the socialites. Those are the folks that want to be involved and have some fun, etc. So be a sleuth is very important in your role as a board member. Who's out there that may be interested in your mission? Be a cultivator. So in addition to sort of asking the person to come to a tour, why not have some structured activities with your part of your fundraising process, pre-planned and carried out explicitly over time as a precursor to soliciting the prospect. Perhaps it's a list of ways to involve the prospect, tours, one-on-one meetings with your leadership. Maybe it's offering a volunteer opportunity. I had a few times where a major donor, before they gave, they wanted to be involved with the organization, not as a board member, but as a volunteer. Perhaps it's watering the plants at the organization, or it's filing. They want to get a sense of what's the heartbeat of the mission of your organization. So offer some volunteer opportunities and perhaps be strategic about it if you know who this person is that may have some capacity to give you a gift. Here's one. You know, for some of the sophisticated organizations, you can actually create a one-page prospect profile. There's available information, publicly available information that's out there about folks. Perhaps your database that you use to record your gifts and pay attention to your metrics, which is the best practice. Perhaps you can pull some of that information from the donor's file and put it into a profile report. So you're seeing where they live, what they're involved in, other boards that they may serve, perhaps seeing some other organizations' annual reports. You could get to see the giving level that they're under. So there's a lot of publicly available information out there that you can pull and put it to a brief that you can provide to your executive director, or just talk together as a group. There's also coaching sessions, which the Community Foundation offers as well, in terms of how to communicate major and planned gifts. And we'll get to that in the slide in a minute. Number 5 is being a solicitor. Ask someone face-to-face for a gift. You know, as I said, it can be low-key. It requires some prep time, as I'll talk about in a little while, but it's really not transactional. It's relationship. It's having a cup of coffee with somebody. Perhaps it's a tour with your executive director and yourself as a board member, and you come together in the executive director's office at the end, close the door, and just have a nice conversation. Low-key, very informal. But it's time to have a face-to-face conversation. Practice helps. I can help you if you want in terms of coaching. And number 6 is being a steward. I can't tell you enough. This is part of the last cycle of fundraising. It's called stewardship. Stewardship can sometimes take a back seat, and I'm an advocate of stewardship. So you may ask, what's a stewardship? What does he mean? It's engaging of somebody. It's engagement of a donor. So if someone makes a gift to your organization, they are investing in your mission. You can't just not pay attention to them for the whole year. You have to send them an acknowledgement letter. And then, of course, engage them. Send them your newsletters. I can't tell you how many times I've had donors or fund advisors here at the Community Foundation who have said, did such and such organization send a newsletter or a letter to me? And sometimes I'll say, unfortunately, no. And that fund advisor will pull back and not give a grant to the nonprofit. It's happened a few times, and I'm literally pulling my hair out because me as a background fundraiser, that's that's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Or you could easily, if you don't have the time to do stewardship and white glove folks, have a volunteer do it. Okay, here's a plug. They're not on this call. Here's a plug for Lakeville Fire Company up in the Poconos. Okay, we have fund advisors who support them every year with a grant. They did something awesome and inventive. So it may look like a note card, right? So what they did was took an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, found a way to template it where their logo and their address is on one side and it's bare on the other. And guess what they did? Oh, they folded it to make it look like a card. And they did the best thing. It's a handwritten note to our fund advisors. What a cool way. Budget is short and you don't have time, but you can easily create a template on Word or what have you that has the address and the logo on the side and then blank on this space for an 8.5 by 11. That's not too bad. People appreciate the handwritten note cards. That'll never go away in this digital age, and I'll swear on that one. So please steward your donors, make them feel love. So they'll give you a gift the following year and completely be with you over time. Here are some 7 faces of philanthropy. This is where we like to kind of get fun here. We mention this at the Community Foundation no matter where we go, but you may have a donor or a prospect that may be one of these 7, or maybe all or a few together. So I'm going to go through these quickly just for the sake of time. 1232. All right, so where do you see your own face as a board member or donor or volunteer? And where do you see your donors' faces? Okay, so the first is the communitarian. There's Fred Rogers there, tying his shoe. I love Fred Rogers, such a good guy, and the show was just awesome. They're a communitarian. Doing good makes sense. If I'm going to help someone, it's sure going to be my neighbors. So friends and neighbors helping each other. That's really the gist of it. I've also met folks in my own experiences that feel really passionate about their religious affiliation and that their giving is part of a higher calling. So the devout face, if you will, of philanthropy. Oh, here we go. Here's Mr. Buffett, the investor. Doing good is good business. So giving only makes sense when everyone comes out winning. That looks like a Dairy Queen ice cream. That looks very yummy right now. The socialites, as I mentioned, people who are pictured at a gala or a cocktail reception, they're the socialites. They want to be out there. They want to put their name in for the paper or whatever outfit that's online on LinkedIn or Facebook. Doing good is fun, and we want to be a part of that. The repayer, Mr. Bronson here, doing good in return. I'm very successful, but never into giving to charity before. After I found out someone in my family had received services from your organization, I began to make gifts to help other people like my family was helped. And I think that's, I've heard that before in terms of people seeing a family or an individual receive the benefit of the mission. And they say, hey, you know, it looks like a great charity. I'm going to support them. So here's the altruist. Doing good feels right. You know, for me to continue to grow as a compassionate person requires that I care. Philanthropy is a process of personal development and a way to move things forward. So this kind of pairs with that 5-level slide that I showed you early on in the presentation, the altruist. And there are a number of them out there in our community for sure. I know I've had the pleasure of meeting so many. And of course, what pleasure is that we have many dynasts here in the county as well and elsewhere. Doing good is a family tradition. Charity was always what my family did. We just all grew up with discussions about it, with going to charity affairs, with people interested in community issues. It's really a part of a tradition. And we're blessed in this region, not just in the county, to have the dynasts among us who are still very philanthropic. So perhaps, as I said, you are one of these faces or one of a few, and your donors and your prospects are these faces as well. So as we move on here, cultivating conversations. Help your donors understand why they give. Make it easy for them. Perhaps it's updating your webpage. So maybe a ways to give portion, and give them everything. Give them a menu of opportunity, not just a credit card, portal. Give them information. Give them information about donor advised funds. Give them information about planned gifts. If you need some help in terms of, what to put on your website, email me later and I could give you some tips in terms of putting stuff on your website. Just giving a donor, many donors are sophisticated now. So having that information readily available is very key. So helping your donors understand why they give. For the family, it's honoring and appreciating your ancestors, setting an example for living family members. That's number one. For faith, it's giving due to spiritual beliefs and or religious practices. For legacy, it's giving to influence the future and to be remembered. So if you think about that 5-level slide I mentioned earlier, number 5 is that legacy gift. It's helping someone tie your nonprofit mission to their personal legacy because it's time for them. Experience, inspiration comes from an individual's own life. And analysis. Donors objectively identify areas of greatest need and develop a method to accomplish goals. This may be represented by an altruist as well, who may be supporting an organization and may want to support another organization as part of their goals in terms of what they care about. So this is really kind of helpful for you, these key words to match up donors and prospects that are interested in supporting your organization. So shifting from transactional to relational conversation. Here are some questions that you can ask as you get to know the donor. You don't have to ask this right away, but you don't have to ask all these questions, but it's really getting to know the donor. If the donor makes a gift, the first step is what? It's calling the person on the phone saying thank you. If you don't have a report that you're pulling out of your database every week or 2 weeks and assigning the calls to your board members, or board members, if you're not making those calls on behalf of the nonprofit, do it. The donors will appreciate a call from a volunteer board member. And then the next step is to say, hey, you ever want to go out for coffee or breakfast or lunch? Let's do that. I want to get to know you and why you support our organization. So here are some questions. I won't get into all of them, but go through them and say, how can I start in getting to know this person? And again, these are relational conversations. The value here is that the person that you're asking, they'll feel appreciated. And the value for you and your organization is, as a sleuth, you could start documenting the answers to their questions in their donor profile. Make sure you're recording these conversations in the donor's record, because then you can kind of use that as a resource as you figure out how much to ask the person for a gift later. So make sure all of this interaction, this engagement is recorded in some fashion. Best practice is a donor management system where you can pull information and look at your metrics. So these are some great relational questions, and there's even more out there, but these are some of the big ones. So before the ask, clarifying the case for donating a major and planned gift. What's the need to be met? Make sure there's a clear understanding of what the donor is being asked to support. Number 2, why is it important to the world? There's a strong and moving case for support. There must be a case statement or a document that you could slip to the donor or prospect saying, why, the reason why it's important to support your organization and the mission. So make sure you have some sort of information that they can take away. Number 3 is, how is your nonprofit going to meet the need? Make sure there's a solid plan for meeting the goals. Make sure you're communicating that to the donor and prospect of how you're serving the community, whether it's in Chester County or beyond. How's your organization going to meet that need? How much will it cost? Again, your case statement or your sort of case proposal should have a cost benefit, a cost associated with programs that you're sort of wanting the donor to support, or serving the needs of the community. How much overall for the year does your nonprofit have to budget? Make sure that's all in there. Also, you know, you could do this in written form or in just talking or signing. It's really who else is involved. Show that there's other evidence of support. Perhaps you have corporations that are supporting you or private foundations for grant making purposes. Perhaps you have individual donors. That gives the donor or the person you're meeting with a sense of leadership. Who else is supporting your organization? A question that will come up is the donor will ask, what do you need from me, the donor? How do I fit in? Make sure you make sure that they're included in your mission, and explain to them how they fit in with your organization. What's in it for me, the donor? Avenues for meaningful involvement, participation, recognition, anonymity if they don't want to be recognized. Some people do not. So make sure if that comes up for the donor, if they don't want to be recognized with a listing of a name, that you can honor their anonymity in donor listings, database, make sure it's coded appropriately. And then number 8 is, how will we know when we've accomplished what we aim to do? Make sure you communicate the sense of impact. That's really part of the case statement or written or signed word that you're trying to communicate to someone. I quite frankly think number 8 is probably the most important, is how they will be part of this impact in our society. Cultivation meetings. There is a science to it. Now I'll get to that in a little bit. But in your meeting with your cultivation meeting with the prospect or the donor, make sure you summarize your nonprofit's mission. Ask the prospect what their interests in this area are. Provide a personal experience or value that conveys why your nonprofit is of great personal meaning to you. Ask the prospect to recount a similar feeling they've had. That's sort of like a relational way to get someone's engagement. Relate the prospect's interest to your nonprofit's initiatives. Number 6 is summarize 3 recent accomplishments and 3 key assets of your nonprofit. Make sure you're touting that. Perhaps it's the executive director, or perhaps it's you as a board member. Leave with the next step. So when you're wrapping up the meeting, the cultivation meeting, perhaps sum it up in a sentence or 2. So the next step here is what? Make sure that there's a next step. So it sort of moves management is what they call it in fundraising speak. Make sure you've identified a next step that's clear to the person that you're meeting with. Just one follow-up thing to do. All right. The art of the ask. Here we go. Here's the science to it. There is some prep time that is required. If you're meeting with somebody, you want to first rein in everybody in your team, the executive director, you want the development person, staff person involved, and basically time it out, time, place, and yes, restaurant. If someone's got a favorite restaurant, ask them, whoever's making that initial setup of the meeting, so they feel comfortable. I found that actually works really well. So that's place or where, what's best for the person. When you're meeting with someone, I strongly recommend you make reservations, right? And you're there at the meeting 10 to 15 minutes before the meeting starts. You never, ever, 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 ever want to be late. I'm a stickler for that. So if you're 5 to 10 minutes late, that's a red flag for me. So make sure you're 10 to 15 minutes early for your meeting, because that gives you time to prepare. And I'll get back to corralling your leaders, your executive director and your development person. Make sure you receive sort of a prep sheet in terms of who the donor is, how much they've been giving every year, how they first got involved with the organization. Perhaps have your development staff member provide some talking points for you, so you can kind of get to know the person on a backgrounder before you meet with them. Number here, in this bullet here, you have lead prospects. talk to lead prospects about their own interests and values. I just mentioned that in the previous slide. Help them talk about their motivators. And it's not about you. So I know when we're having a conversation, this has been practiced for me early on in my career, take yourself out of it. You want to be able to kind of hear from them and understand what their interests are and who they are as a person. So try to refrain from talking about yourself a lot, kind of remove that. It's hard to do, but with some practice you can. Just encourage with questions and bring out the personality of the person that you're meeting with. It's hard to do, but in time, with practice, you can do so. You know, as you get to concerns, what are the societal concerns out there? What concerns might need to be addressed? And then what are your responses going to be if they share with you, you know, those types of concerns? Ask, would you consider a lead gift to our cause? Right? So a lead gift is a really biggie in terms of our fundraiser speak. So when you ask them to consider a gift this year, be quiet and then let them think and respond. It's sort of like what a reporter does when they have the microphone and they're interviewing someone. I've been in that situation where they put the microphone up to you and they're waiting for you to respond and then say a little more. So, and they're quiet. That's what you want to do. You kind of want to just take a step back and then just have the, you know, proverbial mic and just listen to what they have to say. They will either say no, maybe, not yet. Be open to all three. And of course, they might say yes, and you will be gloating. You'll be like, oh my God, this is amazing. This type of asking will boost your confidence if you are the one tasked to ask for money, to ask for fundraising. Just keep that going. Build your confidence. Take the fear out of it, because we're all in this together. The person will know when you're meeting with them why they're meeting with you. So they're going to have a sense of what the meeting's about. But really, it's about, if they say yes, just give them some options. If there's a pledge note to sign, if you want to ask them for a pledge commitment over 2 to 3 years, you know, make sure there's, you know, stuff that's handy for them to sort of have. The URL for a credit card donation, stock transfer instructions if your organization accepts gifts of stock, which is a big one right now, actually. And, you know, if they have a pre-addressed stamped, or pre-stamped envelope to mail the check, make it easy for the donor or the prospect. Keys to successful major and planned giving. Here it is: compelling purpose, meaningful cultivation, and relationship. These are some of the sub-bullets of the things we just talked about, but it's really being prepared. It's really talking about compelling purpose of your organization and your mission. Be prepared to provide some good stories of the people that you're serving and the families that you're serving that you can say to this prospect or this donor. So that's really it. I think I wanted to keep it open for any questions, but I hope you find this helpful and inspiring, because I don't want you to think that it's, my gosh, it's just me going to ask this donor or this person and I don't even know what to do. And again, if you need coaching, I'm happy to meet with you or talk with you about how to really kind of set the stage for a donor. I've had this experience for a while in fundraising, and it's a bit of a science, but once you have it down pat, you can do it. And don't forget about the stewardship. If you have somebody who's been supporting your organization year after year after year, show them some love. Write a handwritten note, have a board member call and reach out with a phone call. It is icing on the cake. Pardon the expression, because it's lunchtime. Anyone have any other questions? I saw there were a few. Are the slides available? Yes, Teddy, yes, they will be.
They're actually already up on our website, but we will be sending out a video of this presentation as well as the slides via email after this.
Good.
Thank you very, very much, because I'm actually driving to meet a prospective client or a donor.
Goodness.
And so I didn't want to miss any information, so I couldn't look at the slides while you were talking. So thank you very much. I really appreciate all your tips. And
Good
again, I'm
luck.
Teddy from Delaware County. I really appreciate your time and energy.
Oh, good luck.
And yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it major gifts, as I mentioned, it could be, defining on, how the nonprofit defines a major gift. It could be 5,000, 10,000, but you really want to get them engaged to the point where they're supporting your organization every year. Don't be in a rush to cultivate them for a major gift, but be aware that at some point the rubber is hitting the road and you have to ask this donor for a bigger gift. And I strongly suggest you look at your data. Look at the donors who are giving you $100 to $500 or more, and say, who can I ask? Let's take top 5. Who can I ask for a larger gift? Don't go too large, but ask them for maybe another 1,000 or another 2,500. I don't know. I don't want to cut yourself short either. But paying attention to your data and what you have there is very important. Very important. Okay, great.
Jason?
Yes.
One thing I really like, and I got on here late, but what I've heard is I think it's so important, as you were just saying, about having information to share and have your donor story ready to share that information, because being like you, one of the things we do is we're storytellers, and if you have something that's going to pull at someone's heartstring, that statistically people will give through empathy and emotion. And if you're able to be a good storyteller or have a couple, I don't know, elevator speeches, if you will, in your back pocket, it is so very helpful to have that and be able to share it authentically.
So very true. And, for those who are sort of new in that space, that's where I said earlier, practice with someone. It could be a coaching situation, practice with someone so you can actually show the emotion, because that's what people want to see. You're absolutely right on the storytelling, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I know I covered a lot, and I know we have fundraising folks, we have board members, but I hope this helps you. I think this relational thing, but this relational thing will not go away. It's really getting them to level 5, which is where they make a large planned gift or a planned gift to your organization because they love you. And by the way, planned giving prospects, former volunteers and volunteers, current board members, should have led that off first, former board members, loyal donors. So these are the folks who are giving you $25 or more every year for the last 10 years, or 7 out of the last 10. Those are going to be your prime plan giving prospects. So if you're sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I don't even know who's going to make a plan gift to my organization, I just shared with you those constituent groups that you should kind of look at. They're the ones who are really going to kind of say, yeah, for sure.
Jason, we have a question from Rob.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hey, Jason. Hey, could you bring this discussion up to the current date? Because once the new administration was elected in November, a lot of things changed. A lot of people's attitudes changed. I know my own family gift giving changed. Significant gifts I gave to one organization, I reprioritized and said, nope, gotta look at this other organization. So there's churn going on. Could you give some observations and then some advice as to what we should be considering?
Thank you for that question. I think there's a lot of people are being cautious in terms of where they want to spend their philanthropic dollars. Of course, the market fluctuations that occur have been occurring the last couple of weeks. people have told me that they're pausing on either creating a fund or and I'm not saying any fear here, they're just waiting to see what happens. On the same token, we have inflation that's starting to bite back. I shared with you the Giving USA information from 2023, where we're heralding that inflation was coming down, but it looks like inflation might be creeping back up. So yeah, there was some genuine pause. And then there's also fear. People are sort of not going to nonprofits for services because they're afraid. But this is the time when donors need to step up. Philanthropy needs to step up and support nonprofits. Nonprofit organizations, of course, if they receive federal funding, there's a pause there, right? This is the time when, with such uncertainty, that you can have a meaningful conversation with a donor or a prospect to say, yes, there's these things, these stressors going on right now. But if you make our organization part of your will, your estate plan, this will be a part of your legacy. Planned giving is something that can really help offset this fear and this pause that's occurring. There's also stuff in Washington about the tax reform bill that's going on. The Charitable Act, what's called the TCA, has been heralded the last couple of years, and when it's been presented in Congress. And so it'll give a sort of a tax deduction for individual 5,000 and then 10,000 for a couple. And that would incentivize giving. So there's some hope there that will pass as part of the charitable, or as part of the tax reform bill, but it's a big question mark. It's a big question mark. So I advise you to tell your donors and prospects and yourselves individually. I know I support charities myself personally, is don't hold back. These nonprofits still need your support. And in addition to that, the people that are being served need your help. That's where your dollars are going to. So never forget about the folks and the families that are being served and helped by the mission. That's very important. That's what I do with my giving. I'm sure you do as well. That's something not to forget. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And yeah, I think as you're kind of alluding, we just have to stay attuned.
Yeah.
Very much. So thank you, Jason.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to get to know you all. Please feel free to attend our Zoom sessions that we have. These are free to you. Again, we're focused on you. We want to build your capacity. We want to make sure that you're comfortable with your fundraising and engagement of people to get your organization from here to there. So we want to help you, and we're providing the resources and tools to do that. Any other questions? No tomatoes? No one's throwing tomatoes at me? Okay. All right, well, good. Well, thank you for your time, and thanks for all you do. Hang in there. I know it's not easy, but there's always a silver lining. So always remember.
Our next workshop will be on April 28th. It's about diversity, equity, inclusion with two fabulous speakers. So I highly encourage you to sign up and attend. Jason, thank you very much for speaking today.
My pleasure.
As he said earlier, he's more than welcome to hang around for a little bit to answer any questions, or you can always send him an email later on.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day.